And we are back once again with attorneys Jeffery Leving and Harriet Newman Cohen and author Susan Cheever. Ms. Cheever, the issue on which we ended just a moment ago, the issue of babysitters, nannies, in some instances becoming the primary caregivers, is one on which you have written recently, and what conclusions have you reached?
Well, my conclusions about the whole situation have less to do with child care and gender than a completely different concern, which is that I don't think this should be ending up in court. In other words, when I first saw this story, my response was, why are these family problems in court? Why are all, and we've seen this on this program, here are all these adults yelling at each other about the welfare of children. It seems to me that what's happened is that we're living in a world where the old structures, religion and the family and community, structures which were set up to solve problems like this, have completely broken down, leaving the law, which is an entirely inappropriate thing to deal with problems like where children should live and how children should be taken care of.
Well, actually, you're talking about the visible failures, the ones that are resolved.
Right.
I mean, the ones that are resolved by families, you don't see. The ones that are resolved by churches, synagogues, and mosques, you don't see.
That's right.
It is only the failures that we see, and they do end up in court. You're quite right.
I think there are many more failures than there used to be, though. I think that the old ways of solving these problems have pretty much broken down.
And so what conclusions do you reach?
Well, I don't have a conclusion. I mean, my conclusion is that we threw out all the rules in the 60s and that now we're dealing with a kind of anarchy when it comes to the welfare of children.
Well, I have a conclusion, and I have a conclusion that when a woman has finally come to the pinnacle of her career, and what happens to her is she is attacked. No matter how it began, she is attacked, and the husband is saying to her, I'm going to take your children away from you now. We certainly had better stay in court. We'd better stay in court where a good lawyer, let me just finish, Susan, where a good lawyer can represent Marcia Clark and show that on all of the factors, even though her position keeps her out of the house, that she is still the primary caretaker, that in order for this husband to get these children, there has to be a change of custody. We're not talking about an initial custody decision, and that is too powerful a problem to take out of the courts.
Let me, if I may, just pose another question here, and the Marcia Clark case brings it very much before us right now. It seems to me that perhaps 15 or 20 years ago, and more recently, men have been successful in gaining custody of their children. But 15 or 20 years ago, the argument would frequently be to the man, you are not fit to be the primary caregiver precisely because you are focused on going out and having a career and making the money, and since it is the woman who will spend more of the time at home, she ought to be the primary caregiver. Whatever happened to that argument?
That's only one of the elements. There were always cases in which the father, even though he went to work, did end up raising the children as well. We then moved into the new movement where women are holding down the same positions as men, a very threatening thing in this world, that's for sure. And now you have two parents, and you have to choose between them. Ordinarily, they sort this out themselves, and whoever has done the work historically, namely usually the mother, ends up with the children. We can't, and surely Susan, I know, agrees with me that even though the nanny is in the house, the nanny is not the primary caregiver. Susan, you do agree with that, of course.
Well, I
agree with that.
Having read your article, Ms. Cheever, I'm not sure that you do agree with that, but you can clearly speak for yourself. That's not necessarily what you were saying in your piece in the New Yorker.
Well, my piece in the New Yorker is really another world. It represents the nanny's point of view, and it talks about the relationships between nannies and mothers, and it talks about why the relationship between nannies and mothers is so complicated. It's so complicated because for a mother to leave her children, even all day or for a week or overnight, is intensely painful, so that some of that pain gets visited on the nannies. But I want to say that I think we ought to all be able to agree that the goal that we should have is for a child to have both parents, not parents at war with one another. If they can't live together, at least they ought to be able to have some kind of harmonious discussion over the issue of their children.
That's true.
Hold on, Ms. Cohen. Mr. Leving truly has not received a fair amount of time, and we are coming to the end of our time. So, Mr. Leving, I'm going to give you the last word. Go ahead.
My concern here is that if we follow what my understanding of Ms. Cohen's opinion is in this matter, we may put children in the position where they may have no full-time parents, and that is something that concerns me. In our fragmenting society, we need to ensure that children have two parents. But if we can't do that, we have to make sure they at least have one full-time parent that'll be there for them emotionally. We need at least one psychological parent.
And emotional...
No, let me talk, because what you want to do is basically focus on the best interests, and I may be wrong, but this is my opinion, of women. No, not of the children. You're telling me that a woman that works... You're telling me that a woman that works 16 hours a day cannot be there emotionally for the children should automatically have sole custody. Is that what you're telling me?
No,
that's what
Okay, I'm glad you asked me that.
Is that what you're telling me that?
I'm going to answer you. It's nothing automatic about it. This man has not lived in that house. These children obviously have a psychological...
That man wants to help his children.
He
works a regular schedule.
I think, ladies, on that point, and Mr. Leving, I'm not sure that we have resolved anything, but at least you have confirmed my initial assessment that it is a controversial issue and one which generates a great deal of heat. I hope a little bit of light also. Thank you very much, Mr. Leving, Ms. Cheever, and Ms. Cohn. I appreciate you joining us this evening.